Hello, YouTube. So old-time viewers might notice that Brin's back in her big blue chair. Um, so I finally got all moved in, and the way that I have been sitting, the windows behind me were this great big huge glare, and so I figured out how to move the camera all the way over here. You don't care about that, but I get to be comfortable, and that makes me happy. So I got a little bit of feedback about my video series, my 3-part series on my HRT experience and, my reasons for starting it and what it's been like since I've been on it. So I think that some people liked the idea that I broke it up. Other people were upset that I sort of broke the flow of the conversation. But I mean, I love myself, and I don't know if I could stand to watch a half an hour of me speak. So I guess what I'll try to do is limit the number of times that I'm speaking for a half an hour straight so that I don't have to break up the video. But I think that I will sort of employ that tactic another time, but fairly rarely, as far as breaking videos up into smaller sections when I have a big topic to talk about. What I wanted to talk about today was the idea of moving through gendered spaces. I talked a little bit in my last video about moving down the roadway of gender in non-traditional vehicles, and being non-binary. We have to interact in the world in very gendered spaces, and it can get a little difficult to navigate sometimes because we don't fit in with everybody else's assumptions that they don't have to think about in their own life. It's cis privilege, the idea of cis privilege. Cisgendered people don't have to think about their gender. Transgender people have to think about how their gender fits into the world that they live in all the time. The biggest one is, I think, the bathroom situation. And it came up because somebody posted a cartoon on Facebook. They posted this trans person's dilemma. They're standing in front of a bathroom door, and the left one is a women's bathroom and says, "Get yelled at," as the label, and the men's bathroom says, "Get beat up," as the label. So, that's sort of the conundrum we face. Then there's also this one, just not quite knowing where you belong. It's a sport with a spoon bathroom and a fork bathroom, and it's kind of a bit of both, but not wholly one of the other. So I know for genderqueer, non-binary people whose presentation may not be binary, very androgynous presentation or genderqueer presentation, that's really the dilemma they face. Are they going to get yelled at in the women's room for being clocked as being a man in the women's room, whether they're male assigned at birth or female assigned at birth? If their presentation is too masculine of center, they're going to get read male in a women's bathroom. And usually the result of that is, being yelled at, or as in the one time it's happened to me, when I actually was having a very binary presentation, but was after Pride, and I was at the train station and had to use the bathroom, and so I used the ladies' room, as was appropriate, and I came out, and there were 2 security guards standing there who stopped me and said that I needed to use the appropriate bathroom. And so I told them that I did. And they said, well, we had a complaint that there was a man in the women's bathroom. And what I really wish I would have said was, well, I didn't see one. But they really caught me off guard. And I was very humiliated and frustrated, and wasn't quite sure what was going to happen with the security people. So I I explained that, I did use the appropriate bathroom for my gender, and that Illinois law covers trans people using the bathroom that's appropriate to their gender identity. And so they had no cause to stop me. And it was at that point that the male security guard got very uncomfortable and realized that they didn't really have a lot of standing to have this conversation. And he was very nervous, so he left and left this short woman in front of me to have the remainder of this conversation. And, he's like, well, next time you have to use the right bathroom. And I was like, I did use the right bathroom. I said, I don't think that you understand the risk that I am put in if I walk into the men's room looking like this. Because they're going to read me as either they're going to read me as a woman, in which case it's probable that they'll just sort of chuckle and not say anything, because men don't generally think of women as a threat. But the other option is that think of me, they clock me as being a trans woman, and here I am in the men's room, and now, I'm at risk of all of these bashers, transphobic, homophobic, people who would rather see, me injured than have their worldview questioned, So it is a matter of danger. That was my other option, get beat up or get yelled at. And when I pointed out to the security guard that she has no idea what my genitals look like, and she's not allowed to ask me that any more than I'm allowed to ask her to see hers or what they look like, she doesn't know what surgeries I have and have not had, and it's not relevant to the conversation. The fact of the matter is I'm a trans woman, and I was in the women's room, and I went in, I peed, I washed my hands, I checked my lipstick, and I left. The end. Just like any other woman. But there was a woman in there with her daughter, and she clocked me, and so she went and reported to security. So thankfully, that's all that happened, was that I got, I got yelled at by security. There's a woman in Maryland who got read as trans in the women's room and was dragged out at a McDonald's, dragged out into the lobby, and was beaten up and kicked and punched, and somebody recorded it rather than call the police. The manager didn't do anything about it, and all for the crime of being trans. So, we're constantly trying to navigate this horrible situation of what ifs. Is this going to be the time where just the fact that I have to go to the bathroom results in hospitalization or death? Or, is it going to be like every other time where I just get away scot-free, without any, anyone questioning? And I pass pretty well, generally, so that's only the one time I've been stopped or questioned coming out of a women's room. But, not every woman does. And, moving through this world, it's just, I think you don't realize when you're cisgender just how many times your gender comes into play in where you walk and, when you feel safe and where you feel safe. And there's not really a good solution to that except, more awareness, I guess, and more understanding that trans people, as it turns out, are in fact actually people with, our own lives and people who love us and people we love and our own concerns about safety. And, I think, I'm certain I read that trans people are at a higher risk of urinary tract infections because we tend to hold it rather than have to try and navigate the bathroom dilemma or seek out the non-gendered bathroom, which in most cases is either a family bathroom or a disabled restroom, in which case, most of the time it's able-bodied people, so they're taking over, the restroom's designed for somebody who is disabled. and or with a family. And I've been out with my kids, and it's difficult to try and navigate the bathroom situation with them, with an adult and little kids, especially cross gender, like a dad with my daughters. I don't like bringing them into the men's room. I like having the family room open. So if I use the family restroom to avoid having to use a gendered bathroom, then I'm taking that opportunity away from some other family that needs it. So it's not ideal, but so rather than try and seek out one of those bathrooms or take the risk of a confrontation, physical or emotional, we tend to just sort of hold it a lot longer than we ought to until we can find a safe place to go. Actually, a coda to the incident that I was involved in, turns out in Chicago they have clarified the Illinois statute for non-discrimination to state that you're required to use the restroom that matches your gender identification on the gender marker on your identification, which means that I would always have to use the men's room in Chicago. I have a letter that I got from my psychologist, and I spoke about this before. Or not my psychologist, but my doctor at Howard Brown, that states specifically that I'm supposed to use the restroom appropriate to my gender presentation. So hopefully that would get me out of any future situation like that. But that's a problematic statute. Illinois legislature went through the effort of amending their non-discrimination laws to include gender identity and gender presentation, and Chicago just overrode it and said, well, by that we know that you mean, you have to match or whatever. Well, it's not easy to make your license match your presentation, especially for a non-binary person like me. Like if I were to change my driver's license to read female, it still puts me wrong half the time. Granted, no one's generally going to clock me coming out of the men's restroom, but it would have a greater impact throughout the rest of my life for my license to say female than it does for it to say male. So it's not worth it just to make that bathroom dilemma easier. But so yeah, I mean, what other ways has gender affected the way that you interact through the world, if you're a trans person? Or if you are a cis person, try to pay attention to how many things you do every day that are as a result of your gender identity that you don't even think about. Like you always know which bathroom to go into. Your clothing choices are a lot clearer. I don't know, just pay attention to it and leave me a note. Put it in comments or send me a note here on YouTube. You can also ask me a question at FormSpring. It's formspring.me/BrinConvenient. You can come to bygender.net, create a journal using the code 2beingyou, or come to the forums, which is bygender.net/forums, /forum. See how else. I'm also on Tumblr, Brin Convenient. Twitter, Brin Convenient. Oh, Google Plus Hangouts. I asked that quick question. So I think the way that, after doing some research on it, the way that it would work is I would open up a Google Plus Hangout on air, and it would transmit to YouTube Live. So I would let you all know that I'm going to be on, broadcasting live on YouTube, and you can watch me there. I guess in Hangouts you can only have a maximum of 9 people, actually in the Hangout. So that's where I would maybe bring in a guest or somebody else to have a conversation with me. But I would love to do like a live chat where you ask me questions on YouTube comments or via Twitter or something else, and I can watch that stuff and be able to answer those questions live, which I think would be a really cool way to interact. So let me know if that's something you still think is cool. and I will do what I can about getting something like that set up. Let me know who you think I should ask to be a guest, too. I would love for Trans Labyrinth to come into a Google Plus Hangout with me, but I have to see if she's available because she's so busy, because she's so awesome. Anyway, I love you all, and contact me. I need your feedback. I need your conversation. But yeah, bathrooms suck. So, until next time.